Hi folks, John Dunn here, RPG freelancer, publisher behind Melia Via. I'm up here at Immortals Inc. tonight.
What is up, John? What is up, world? What do we have in our hands today?
I thought we'd get into something kind of dramatic tonight.
Ooh, as we usually never do.
Kick it up a notch and get into an action movie wushu style game, which is Feng Shui 2. Now, this is one that I think is a pretty awesome game. And I actually asked Carlos if, hey, can we get some copies on the shelf? So it'd be really cool if this seems like something's up your alley, you'd stop and pick it up. And then Carlos would say, hey, John, you might have been right this time.
Link below.
So Feng Shui 2 is written by Robin Laws. I don't know if we've tossed his name around
about
before.
that. I mean, we've been doing this for more than a year now. I've heard Robin?
Yeah, Robin Laws has done a lot of work with the Gumshoe system. He's one of the people behind that.
We've spoken about the Gumshoe system.
That's probably where we've talked about his stuff the most. He's done a whole lot of other stuff too, but that's probably the most relevant one. This game originally came out in 1996. There was a Kickstarter in 2014 for a second edition, which is this one, that came out in 2015. Notably, this game shares a setting with a card game that was real big in the 90s called Shadow Fist. Don't know if you've heard of it, Mikey, but betting some of our viewers may have. It was a really flavorful, again, action movie, martial arts, wushu type card game. It's published by Atlas Games, and like I keep mentioning, this is an action movie game. Think Mortal Kombat, Kung Fu Hustle, Big Trouble in Little China. Those kinds of games where there's going to be a lot of fighting going on, right?
Whole lot of power.
Yeah. And, you know, very active characters who are kind of going to have a big effect on the world around them. The core of the setting is the Qi War. So Qi, Chi, C-H-I. And there's portals between time and the netherworld and our reality. And these portals connect to a whole bunch of different places. You've got the ancient Chinese Empire from the year 690, where there's a whole cabal of evil sorcerers. You've got a connection to 1850, where there's colonialism in China, and you have these monks who are animals that have ascended to sapience. You've got the modern time where you've got the ascended kind of in control, but dragons are fighting them in the background. You've got a post-apocalyptic 2074 era where you've got cybernetic apes in control of the future. And then you've got these unstable connections that can pop up to pretty much any time in any kind of wild story setting that you want. And you've got these different factions that are fighting for control of all of these different eras. When changes happen, those changes are retroactive. So if somebody goes back to the past, all the present gets rewritten.
As it should.
Exactly. And people kind of reincarnate laterally in response to that. So reality kind of ripples and things are different afterwards. Character creation is a very fast system that uses archetypes. There's 36 different options presented in the core. So this is a fairly meaty book, and there's a whole lot of stuff going on there that give you plenty of options to get going. After you pick your archetype, you choose or create a melodramatic hook and a special effect that your character is associated with. Those can be key, could be magic, or it could be a genomic characteristic generally associated with those mutant animal options that I mentioned. Once you've got that going, then you pick your character's shticks, which are kind of like moves empowered by the apocalypse. I think we've talked about that before too, where it's basically just a thing your character can do when it seems appropriate that just gives them some kind of special feature to take. And your characters, these aren't first level D&D characters or 0 level Dungeon Crawl Classics characters. These are hyper competent individuals. They're action heroes, right? So
They've been in the game.
Exactly. They're the central featured character in any of those action movies that I talked about before. So they know what's going on and they know how to use their abilities effectively. The game system is designed to generally be fairly predictable. So you're hyper competent. You're generally going to succeed at what you're trying to do. When you don't succeed, that's going to be more of a surprise, or when things go particularly well, that might be a little bit of a surprise. but the game is also very fast because of that, and yet at the same time kind of dramatic. So cool stuff happens. You're a hyper competent character who's going to get to do really cool stuff, as befits the genre that we're talking about here.
Can you do a spinning tornado kick at all? I mean, I hope so.
At the very least, you can do a spinning tornado kick. You might do a spinning tornado kick that spawns a tornado, right?
Dude,
so think fighting games, right?
I would
Street
hope
Fighter.
it does that.
Yeah, exactly. Your characters aren't going to roll even to attempt an action because they are hyper competent, unless it would be interesting if they failed, or particularly interesting if they succeeded in an extraordinary way. When you go to roll, you roll 2 dice and you subtract 1 from the other. You add that to your character's acting value. So you're not going to have a huge range there. And then again, you do have special abilities that you can call into play. There's a long list of shtick options, and they're broken down by your character's field of expertise. You have guns, martial arts, driving, sorcery, animal, mutant, and cyborg. And then there's a whole section of situational rules as well. After that, the book gets into a bestiary, which are your enemies, and these are broken down into all the different time periods that I mentioned earlier. So you've got foes for all those different eras. Foes are broken down as mooks, basically just the guys you're going to go through a horde of them. Featured, like maybe a lieutenant type or sergeant. Bosses, which, the big boss battle at the end of the level. And then your uber boss, the big bad that features at the very end of the film or adventure.
And picks you up if you pay through card.
Unquestionably.
Yeah.
Then there's a section on GM advice. It's very game specific. It talks about how you wanted, kind of drive these action movie themes forward. And it includes a bit on adventure design. What kind of stories are these hyper competent characters going to tell? After that, there's setting material, particularly Feng Shui sites, places where key energy is at its highest. And there's a discussion about the different factions in here as well. Presentation of who the key figures are in each of these factions and what their motivations are as they're trying to advance their group in power, both in their own era and across time. And then there's setting chapters that talk about the key war, talk about the Netherworld, and talk about, of course, Hong Kong. Because, stuff happens in Hong Kong. Talks about how history can change. Mentioned that earlier bit about lateral reincarnation, where your characters can change as things happen in the past. So you get some direction for how that can work. And then talks about critical and superficial shifts, which might be, a critical shift could be one where all of reality changed dramatically, and a superficial one might be somebody might have just fixed something and we didn't even realize it. Some apparently minor changes.
Potholes.
Exactly. Then there's specific hooks and ideas to lead characters into adventures. And there is a sample adventure, which I love this title, Shadow of the Future of the Apes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds like a familiar movie title, but...
Like I said, there's a whole lot of stuff going on here. There's a whole lot of films that you can easily draw inspiration from for Feng Shui. It's just an action game for people who love action movies where things don't slow down at all.
Yeah, I get Shang-Chi vibes, even though it's maybe not the same thing.
It's not all that different.
Yeah.
This is from Atlas Games. It is full color. It's hardcover. It's about 350 pages. It is lavishly illustrated. Talking about those different archetypes. You can see a few of them here as I flip through. And then, just a gorgeous layout with lots of fun, evocative artwork throughout. And it is $49.95. We've got this up here on the shelf at Immortals Inc. If you're interested, stop in, check it out. Like I said, maybe pick up a copy and prove to Carlos that I was right that we should carry it.
Maybe you should. Well said, my friend. Until next time, everybody.
Good gaming, folks.